Welcome back, everybody, to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, guys, because we're here. I'm excited. You see it, you clicked on the video. We're going to give you our real-time review and spoiler review, mind you, of The Last of Us, Episode 1 of Season 2. Now,
just as we did for last season, we're going to discuss these episodes unto themselves.
yep,
They're both Josh and I have played the games. We know the content that is very likely coming.
oh yeah,
And we're going to try and not spoil that stuff so that people who are watching these things each
don't get
week
spoiled.
are not going to get spoiled for what's coming. That said, there is going to be difficult to discuss certain things because we know you'll understand once we get into it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just know that we're going to try and keep the spoilers contained to specifically what's happening now as opposed to what's coming.
Yep. And I did put up the spoiler already, guys, but we're going to do a little recap, and I want to bring up something here before we do the Season 1 recap. But it is a spoiler. We are talking spoilers for Episode 1 of Season 2. So again, haven't watched it.
Season 1 is fair game. The first game is fair game.
Yep.
But everything that happens past this episode in both the game and the show,
Exactly.
Rest assured, we're gonna try to avoid saying anything.
Right. And I want to bring up, if you've been a fan of the show, if you've been a fan of the channel for a while and you've been following us, we were doing. Oop, my little thing. There we go. If you've been following the channel with us, like if you remember a couple years back, we were doing The Last of Us Season 1 reviews weekly, and we kind of stopped. I had stuff come up, and we never got to finish. I do apologize for that, but it is happening. I told James before we came on, we're doing it. I mean, it may be like the day after, because I know this Sunday I'll be gone for Easter, but and so will James.
Yep.
But we will be back. We'll review it on Monday, have it Monday night, but after that we'll try and get them up on Sunday nights if we can. But either way, the reviews will be coming, just like Daredevil's been doing it. And this one, we're going to be having the reviews for you guys, because we do love this show, just like we love Daredevil and other shows as well coming down the pipe. And I'm just excited to get talking about this one, because
we've also got Andor coming up too. Which
yeah,
I would
we might have to do Andor too,
as well, because Season 1 was so good.
Yeah, we might have to do Andor too. That's true. But let's get to recapping Season 1 now. We'll talk about Season 2, but I feel like because Season 1 was so well close to the game than like anything.
And there were derivations here and there.
Yeah, some
certain
here.
Things that they did fantastically. Like, I stand by my assertion that the episode where it was Bill and his love story is one of the greatest hours of television I've ever seen. And little bits here and there, like there's a little bit more about the people who kind of run a town that wasn't in the game, but a lot of the story beats are the same. The character arc is the same, and the big thing to remember is that the ending is very much the same.
Oh yeah.
Although there's little bits that they've left out, and I'm wondering why they've left them out. Primarily, where we leave off and where we pick back up with this season is that the story for the first season is that Joel, who's basically lost everything, including his humanity and his soul, when his daughter died, has sort of just been spending 20 years in between the death of his daughter and the beginning of the show, kind of lost, and has sort of a reputation as a very brutal, violent human being. And he's tasked with taking this young girl, this teenager, across the country to a group who believes that we find out eventually that she is immune to the cordyceps sort of contagion.
Yep.
I almost said virus, but it's not a virus. We should be very clear on that. That she is immune, and that the hope is that this group is going to be able to extract whatever it is that exists in her that makes her immune.
Yep.
Now, it's sort of implied in the game, and I don't remember how much of it is implied in the show, that it's sort of unique to her, and that's going to become kind of important to the big moral question about the ending of the show, is that when Joel finally gets to the hospital and hands her off to the Fireflies,
Yep.
he finds out that the only way for them to be able to operate on her and kind of extract whatever it is within her that is capable of holding off this infection, because she's been bitten but hasn't turned, it will kill her.
Yeah,
She will
they
die,
implied
and
that
they have
they
full
implied that in the
intention
show.
of they well no, but the implication that I'm not sure has been in the show but was in the games is that first of all, that whatever it is that's within her is unique to her and wouldn't work in anyone else, and second, that they're not even sure they can do it. um it's sort of implied in little bits and pieces that you find throughout the game that they don't know that they can actually extract what it is. They don't understand what it is within her. And yes, they're going to take the deep dive into her brain and take a look. Um, but that's kind of not important to the moral quandary of the ending, is that Joel, knowing that she's going to die and now having fallen in love with this um,
Kid.
kid as a daughter figure,
Yep.
I want to make that clear
Yeah.
that
Yeah. For sure.
it's a daughter figure, daughter father relationship. He feels very protective of her and basically goes full Rambo on this hospital and just murks everybody,
Yep.
including the scientist team that was trying to operate on her. And
And
two
it's a
things
very
that are
it's a
going to be
it,
very impactful on this season is that, um, especially, and we've already seen bits and pieces of that in this episode, is that Joel is not the hero. We follow Joel and we're sympathetic to Joel through the first game. We play as Joel through the first game, but Joel is not the hero.
Yep.
What he's done is actually quite terrible. Um, People seem to imply that, he's now doomed humanity, and there are going to be heavy consequences for this. We've already met Abby, who swears at the grave of several Fireflies um, that she wants to kill Joel and she wants to kill him slowly.
Yep.
The other problem is that Joel has robbed Ellie of her agency. Joel has made a choice for her and taken that choice away from her, because something that we find out, um, there's obviously a very big disconnect between the two of them. Without getting too deep into the weeds of what actually happened, Ellie is very angry about people making choices for her. Um, we see it in the beginning when she's training to fight this guy, and her buddy, I think his name is Seth,
Yep.
let slip that he told the other guy to pull his punches because he doesn't want to have to explain to Joel. There's a moment later when Ellie is at a dance with Dina. They kiss, and then no, sorry, that guy's name is Seth. I can't remember the first character's name. Um, but there's an older guy who makes a very homophobic remark about, "Hey, this is a family event," kind of thing. Um, and of course, Joel comes in and cold cocks him and knocks him on his ass. And Ellie's kind of pissed off because, again, he's robbing her of her agency. He's making decisions for her, and throughout this episode, she is trying to prove that she is capable of taking care of herself, and people are not letting her do that. Joel's coming from a place of being a father and sort of an older chauvinist mentality where he means well and he thinks he's doing the right thing by being overprotective, but he's doing it in a way that, again, she's not able to make these choices for herself, and that's going to be sort of an ongoing theme throughout this episode. And again, without getting too deep into spoilers, beyond this,
Yep.
And it understanding the connection of where season one ends, where season two picks up, and what's going to happen from here on out, it's very important to have conversations about that choice that Joel made. And a lot of people, from what I've seen, have very much landed on the idea that Joel was wrong, primarily because he didn't know that they didn't have sort of a way of kind of extracting this, for lack of a better term, cure,
Yeah.
or whatever it is that is in Ellie to help other people. And it I go back and forth on whether or not I feel like he's right. I know that what he did was terrible, but at the same time, if I was in his shoes, I feel like I would end up doing the same thing.
Right?
No, I
Because
probably
I was
wouldn't be
about to
nearly as
say, I mean,
effective as him,
yeah,
but I empathize with Joel, and at the same time, I acknowledge that um, to certain people, he is a villain. He is not the hero, and that's kind of a big thing for his character. And um, the games do sort of a wonderful thing where they put you in the shoes of certain characters and make you empathize with them, but throughout, especially the second game, there's a lot of points where you're going to have to do terrible things as that character or watch that character do terrible things, and there's a lot of sort of like gray area as to the
yeah.
morality of a lot of this
Yeah, and
stuff.
I gotta say,
um,
I love the fact that they're making Joel, even in the game, just a gray area character because it's a very complicated thing. He lost his daughter, you know what I mean, and like now that he's found a new daughter within Ellie, it's hard to let that go. Selfishly, yeah, but at the same time, like the whole like how protective it is of her now, or even back then, even and I'd say now in season 2, it's just a parent thing. It's mother, father, doesn't matter. If you have a child, you're protective over them, and you go given with
but
him.
at the same time, as a parent, there's a certain point where you have to start trusting that child to be able
True,
to make choices for themselves, especially when like Ellie's in her young 20s now. She's not a kid anymore. She's not a teenager, and it's like
yep, and I'll push back a little bit.
you
Yes,
always feel
she
that
is.
overprotective
She
nature as a father, but at the same time, you have to be able to grant them the freedom to make mistakes and learn things for
of course,
themselves.
make mistakes, of course, and the fact that she has this superpower essentially that she can go out there. The only thing she get killed by the clickers and everything like that, and the zombies. But in every parent you got a chance to give you got to let them go and live their life. But again, that trauma of losing the first one, that reason he was so selfish that first time is he just doesn't want to lose another one. I
Yeah.
don't think like psychologically he could handle that. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't
Oh no.
condone it, but
I
it's
completely
like you don't
emphasize.
condone it, but you understand it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That to me is the compelling part of it
and
all.
that's going to again be a continuing. Well, that was a continuing thing through the second game, without getting again too deep in the weeds. Um, you see, that's what I love about this show and this story is that they're very good at continuing their sort of themes and perspectives and character building and whatnot.
Yep.
Um, and that, again, going back to the question about whether Joel was justified in doing this or not. Um, and the question, another question I keep seeing is that he doomed humanity and he didn't know that they didn't have a plan. I kind of come back to the question of, did he really doom humanity? Because the status quo hasn't changed. Their humanity is not really like, they're not thriving,
Yeah.
but they're doing okay. And when you look at a place like Jackson, Jackson is actually thriving. Now there's implications that things are going to go haywire real
Really
fast,
bad,
and
really
we'll get to
soon.
that.
Yeah.
We'll get to the little bit at the end there, but like they've managed to keep going for about 20 years now, and yes, things are not great, but people are managing to build lives.
Yep. A
And
community.
we saw that, not just community, but we saw that with Bill. And I forget the other guy's name now, but in the first season where they have this entire like multi-decade romance between
Yep.
them, and like it's possible to exist in this world. So yes, Joel kind of robbed people of the opportunity to have a cure and maybe move beyond all of this, but at the same time, like it doesn't really change things either. So
Frank.
Frank, thank you. Frank was the other.
Yep. Other guy.
And I just finished saying it was one of the best hours of television, and I can't remember their names, but um, this moral quandary is kind of why I love this show so much, why I love the games so much,
Yeah.
especially the first game was so good.
Now
Um,
I will so yeah, so after at the very end of season 1, they see the community that where his brother is, and they're going to go live there. Obviously, that's what it looks like. And then she asks that question, uh, you know, is, basically like, "Are you telling me the truth?" kind of thing, and he says yes. It almost makes you wonder, like, has she had to believe them, because there's no way because they've even brought up in this episode that she's only recently been very mad at him. Like, did she like? I'm not gonna get too much in the game,
I
but
was gonna say
the problem I'm having
it's
right
hard to
now.
answer that question without spoiling things. So,
Yeah, but it's like, so
um,
without getting too much in the game, I don't remember. At least let's get into the part where the game is that we're at now. I remember her having friction with him, but not like this bad, and that's, to me, is kind of
no,
becoming a
it was
problem.
no, it was pretty. Even in the game, it was pretty bad.
Okay, I just don't. I guess I
And
don't remember it
leads
being this
into
bad.
no, it's pretty bad in the it's almost the exact same situation in the game where they leave the end of the story in the first one with him having lied to her. And I was listening to the actual podcast that they put out alongside these episodes with Neil Druckmann and Craig. Oh, I can't remember his name now. They're basically the showrunners of the show, and they talked about that moment.
Yeah, it's
And Ellie doesn't
Greg Mazine and Neil
Mazine,
Druckmann.
yeah. So at that moment, she doesn't quite believe him, and she's kind of willing to go along with that lie at first. But you're right. There's something that happens in between then and now that they haven't revealed yet. And I'm not going to say what it
What it
is. I'm
is,
just going to
right?
say that um, the game does answer that question.
Yeah.
Don't know about the show. Haven't seen for episodes beyond that. But the game does answer that question. And
And I guess maybe I need to rewatch the game. The cut scenes from the game, 'cause I just don't remember it being laid on this thick. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because I
well,
just don't.
the game also divides up a lot of this episode into flashbacks later on,
Yeah.
for reasons I won't get into. Um, and there's another flashback that I'm really they haven't done yet in the show that I'm really hoping they do get to. I won't say what it is, but it's a really poignant moment, um, and a nice little break in between a lot of the awful stuff that they're gonna face because it's The Last of Us. Of course, they're gonna face awful stuff between now and the end.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, uh, yeah, it was their relationship is pretty strained at this point in the game. Um, and they kind of skipped over a little bit in this too. Um, but yeah, this is all leading somewhere, and again, we promised we weren't going to spoil things. I'm trying to be as vague as possible, but
Yeah. But going
these are
back
all
to
very
the.
important moments.
But let's talk about this season, this first episode, because I mean
Yeah,
we've already kind of been talking about it a little bit. I loved it. I mean, getting back to seeing these characters again. Joel looks way more rugged and old now. I mean, they do a good job of aging him pretty well. Um, One thing they did, I don't remember it from the game, but I loved the beginning with Abby of the at the grave site. I don't remember that in the
that
game.
was a new thing because
Yeah,
we met Abby later in
much
not
later
later
on.
in the game, roughly about the same point in the game, but she's already in Wyoming looking for them. Whereas
Yep,
where we meet her at the beginning of this episode, she's still in Salt Lake City. We see the same giraffes,
yep,
which are actually kind of poignant that where we see them in the game or in both in the game and the show in the first season was all of this awful stuff had just happened to Ellie and Joel, and we get this sort of moment of pause and moment of like Ellie actually gets to see something that because she's really been sheltered her entire life that
right.
she's never gotten to see before, and that's these very unique wild animals, just living in nature and sort of a like post Jurassic Park kind of situation where it's like nature finds a way kind of thing. Um, and it's this beautiful moment in both the show and the game, and then kind of reversed on this is it's still a poignant moment of these survivors of the hospital situation, reflecting on the horrors that they've just witnessed and they're about to embark on an even more horrible journey of stated revenge. Um, and I just like the framing of those, like sort of the
Right.
reversal of that situation with the giraffes being sort of that centerpiece between the two of them.
Right. I
Um,
agree. And very interesting. I was as I was looking at uh goodness, why am I forgetting her name?
Abby,
Well, yeah, but the actress. Uh oh, come on.
I don't have IMDb up in front of me, so I don't
I'm
know.
pulling it up now. I have it up. Just having fun. I'm having trouble finding it. Oh, yeah, Kaitlyn Dever. Like what I find interesting is that when in this opening scene, she's not as muscular as what we've seen online. So I'm guessing they did this before. Like she must be preparing for something for the last 5 years because this was before the 5 years jump forward. So
Well,
I'm
there's
thinking like when we
also
see her next, she's gonna be like jacked.
I so this is the thing is I don't think she's going to be as jacked as she is in the game. The reason she's so jacked in the game is that they wanted to change up the gameplay when you're playing Abby versus when you're playing Ellie, in that Ellie is very petite, very small, and very stealthy, whereas Abby has a lot more sort of physical strength, and their play style ends up being very different. And they did that because they didn't want the two to be sort of too similar and it just feel like we're just switching perspectives. It's also like we're not just switching perspectives, we're switching personalities, we're switching play styles, we're switching approaches to how you play.
Right.
Um, and I feel like they're going to tone some of that back because I don't think you need that as much in the show. I think Abby's character will, like, we're already seeing Abby's character, and that's more important, in my opinion. But
Now, do you think
I
like in the
don't think that
game we'll have an episode where it's gonna be just focused on Abby, like from her perspective, her story?
I don't know if they're. I mean, I assume they'll have to spend entire episodes with Abby because, of course, they're stretching this out to 2 seasons. Um, and of course, we're going to have to get Abby's backstory at some point. Which, when we got Ellie's backstory, that was an entire episode unto itself. And when we get certain other aspects of the past, we get huge chunks of episodes by themselves.
Yeah.
So I assume that there will be entire episodes on just Abby herself. And as I said in the game, like that's how they get you to empathize with Abby, and kind of not just see her as a villain and kind of continue in that gray area of, yes, these are people out for revenge, but it's like
Yeah.
we still need to, you still want the audience to connect with them, to not make it so easy to see them as villains, the same way that we don't see Joel as a villain in the first game because we play almost entirely from his perspective.
Right.
Second game we play mostly from Ellie's perspective and a little bit from Abby's perspective. So the show is going to have to do something similar to be able to develop that sort of empathy and make sure that the audience isn't just seeing her as
Well,
outright villain.
if you notice from this episode, they kind of did that. There was more scenes of Ellie in this than there was Joel, and
Yeah.
I think that's what they're kind of going for, is like they're more focused on what she's going through in this, and kind of sway, like not swaying, but moving the focus to her than rather to him, which I think
Yeah.
is just in line with the second game. But seeing, people again, like in this town, like they're almost fearful of Joel because, like, I don't want to hear it from Joel. Like, it's like, dang man, like Joel's.
Well, it's both fear, but it's also like Joel has also stepped into a role as, a leader within this community now.
True, true.
And we do see some, like, he's the foreman and he's responsible for um sort of keeping things going in terms of like construction and improvement, and they're fixing up houses because there's so many new refugees. And I really love that, actually, that they are developing the politics of this town as well, where of course they have to accept refugees because they're one of the few sort of establishments, probably
Right.
maybe the only one that we know of that's successful in kind of maintaining their sort of status quo.
Yep.
And because they're accepting so many people, and arguably have the resources for it. Joel is kind of responsible for fixing up all of these old houses within their sort of community for more people to come in.
Right.
And Joel is kind of at odds with this because, you know, he's so used to a world where it's sort of like you have to take care of yourself kind of thing. And there's a bit of xenophobia to the way he kind of talks about other refugees, and the mayor character who's married to his brother kind of has to remind him that
You are a
you were a
refugee too.
refugee once too. So even though he's sort of like feeling like the community should be a little more insular, and of course he wants to, there are limited resources, there are, and space is, one of those resources. We should be a little more selective in who we let in, but it's like we can't do that. This is humanity we're talking about. We may be their only opportunity to kind of um, survive and continue on. So uh, I liked that sort of confrontation
Same.
between the two of them. Another moment that I really enjoyed, the sort of Joel having to sort of face truths about himself and whatnot, is when he's dealing with a psychiatrist who is played by the legendary Catherine O'Hara, who, can I just say, I am so grateful that
Right.
Catherine O'Hara is having this like second renaissance career
Of her
since
career. Oh yeah.
Schitt's Creek, because like I grew up with her on Second City TV and on, she's the mom in Home Alone. To me, that's who she was, and now she's having this sort of like
Yeah.
she's on like one show after another. Like she's on The Studio, and she was on Schitt's Creek for so many years, and now she's doing this show. But her character's kind of fascinating because she's a psychiatrist, but then she mentions that Joel killed her husband.
Right. I was. That
And
was
the
like.
circumstances of that death are fascinating to me because she says something along the lines of something about like she understands why he had to kill him, but she wasn't happy with the circumstances of his death. And I'm like,
I want to
what
see this
happened
now.
there?
Right.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is like I actually looked this up and then went back to the game to check this, but Eugene is a sort of unseen character in the game as well. Or she name drops her husband as Eugene, which some people have taken to mean Eugene Levy, and they're wondering if we're going to get a flashback of Eugene Levy, because famously he was her husband in Schitt's Creek,
Yep.
and another SNL alum. Um, and in the game, he actually dies of old age, and he's sort of like a mentor to Dina in the game, and like
Yep.
seems to have like I'm wondering if he's like a father to Dina, because they mention in the game that he's got a daughter, and it's like I'm curious what the relationships are here, but that doesn't seem to be what they're doing with the character in this. Again, she very much states that Joel killed her husband for justifiable reasons, but I'm
Still
wondering
hates him
if it
for it.
has to do in the game. He is a Firefly. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. That's kind of a spoiler. But I'm
It's
wondering if
fine.
it's
But
him
I
trying to
honestly don't think
cover
they're gonna
his
go the same
ass.
route. But
I'm wondering if it's him covering his ass, and maybe he lied to her about why he killed him, and like assuming like he told her he got bit or something, and then you know she understands that he's kind of doomed at that point.
yeah.
But the circumstances of his death, I don't know. I'm very curious to see where that goes, because I feel like they're setting that up to be something bigger and deeper. Um, and it's fascinating to me that like she kind of hates this man, but she's still
Right.
seeing him as a patient. And I'm that scene was just so well done.
Oh, I loved it.
Um,
Absolutely
just
loved it.
such a
Good
great
drama.
performance by her, and like I really hope we see more of her beyond that. Another great moment is the photography of, it's both in the game and in the show, and they talk about it on the podcast about how they sort of painstakingly recreated sort of Ellie's entrance into the dance scene at the end, and
Yeah.
the beautiful like chandelier above her, and like trying to match that shot kind of one for one, and they just couldn't get it right. They couldn't get it right. They couldn't get it right. And finally, the DP just said, just take it off the damn crane. She put it on her shoulder and just made that shot work through just her own magic
Yep.
DP, pixie dust, whatever she did. Um, and just I love that sort of they talk about like the people who played the game and then came onto the show, and the DP is one of those people who just like got
Yep.
got it. They understood the assignment, and we're so passionate about making it as much like the game as possible. And again, we're going to get into adaptation where certain things are going to be different. You have to change it for a different format. You have to change it for a different medium. But
Yep.
um,
There's
I
certain
just
things you
love
can't like.
that they care that much,
Yeah.
and I feel like you can see that in just every little bit of this show. Um,
Another part I really loved is it's pretty much a one for one shot too of the from the game to the show is when she comes from the dance and Joel's on the porch playing the guitar. Like that's one of my favorite shots from the game. I was like, oh, I love it. They did that in the show too because it's a small thing, but I loved it. It looks so good.
yeah,
And
yeah, the photography in this episode was outstanding.
oh yeah, as a aspiring cinematographer. I'm sorry about that. That's my daughter screaming for some odd reason. As an aspiring cinematographer myself, I loved every shot. Like there's so many shots that are just gorgeous. The compositions, the
And not
shadows, the
just shots,
highlights.
but scenes entirely where it's like they're adding little bits from the game that it's like it doesn't matter that it's from the game to anyone watching who hasn't played the game, but it's like as someone who's played the game, watching LED target practice at the beginning was a nice little nod to things from the game. Um, them getting caught in the supermarket, and oh my god, that creeper scene was so well done. The fact that they're escalating what these infected can do, um, it's such as a zombie fan, and this being a zombie adjacent show, I'm so excited for stuff like that where it's like they expand the lore and they make it like the problem with a lot of zombie media is that you get bored of like just the shambling zombies, and it's like you get kind of bored of like just the regular um creepy infected and whatnot. So like them changing the game and doing new things is like that's the delicious stuff. And like the fact that everyone like they go and sit in front of the council and talk to them about it, and like they're concerned now that it's like, oh, these things are they're strategizing. It's not just wild instinct and sort of a lack of inhibition and like just
It was such an
hunger and whatnot.
interesting, yeah,
Th-
such an interesting
they,
scene.
they're actually they're hiding and they're luring and
Yep,
they're kind of like tricking you into coming out. And it's like they're doing what we're doing,
yep.
and it's like they're learning and adapting. And it's like that's so scary. That's so much scarier than anything else.
I
And
love
and
it. They
I'm
did
sort of
that
fascinated
too.
to where they go with that.
Yeah, I love it. They did that too. I feel like that's gonna pay because you saw in some of the trailers where it looks like the town's gonna be like I don't want to say invaded by a horde, but basically invaded by a horde, and that's just gonna be so interesting to see. The fact that they're adding this stuff to it, it can make it very more compelling down the line.
Well, that also connects to another bit that we kind of implied, but I'd like to get into too, is the end shot of the sequence. There, it's New Year's, and they're all celebrating, and you see a bunch of people walking along with sparklers. One person drops their sparkler, and then
You
sparklers
saw
kind of
the
light up a
yeah,
dark area, and you see the pipe that they were working on earlier, and all of the roots that are in there, um, and you see the cordyceps
yep,
slowly creeping through there, and something that they, again, something that wasn't in the game, but is in the first season of the show, is that they imply that the sort of viney tendrils that kind of move into certain areas create sort of this odd neural network that kind of connects to all of the infected,
yep,
and
and they connect and they communicate with one another.
they communicate with one another. But what this kind of implies to me is that this is going to basically send a message through the network that there's an entire town of food here,
Yep.
delicious fresh human food,
Oh yeah.
come and get it. And they've noted in several moments within this show and or within this episode that there's some strange behavior going on with some of them, and they're seeing them in like areas that they wouldn't normally go in,
Right.
and following paths that they wouldn't normally go on. So um, maybe the status quo of this town is not going to last very long. Which, of
Man,
course,
yeah. That would be
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, well, we know what's going to happen in the game, but again, they could change it up. I mean, it's the showrunner. One of the showrunners is the creator of the game, and he has the
yeah.
creative freedom to do so if you feel like it might be make better for television. But last thing we saw, of course, which is a great shot, is Abby finally making it to Wyoming, seeing the town down the distance. And I'm telling you right now, we need to take a bet right now between me and you because we have been talking about this for a while now. I
Okay,
feel like
before we say this, this
I'm
is
not
a
going to spoil it.
spoiler for the game and potentially for the show.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm not going to say what it is though. I'm gonna.
Okay.
But people in the know will know what I'm about to say. But you know what I'm about to say too. I'm telling you right now. I'm making the bet with you right now. They're going to end the show with that scene because that's a
I
perfect cliffhanger.
it is a perfect cliffhanger, but I don't think it's going to happen because it has to happen much sooner in the storyline for the events that are going to occur.
There's what 7 episodes in this season. Oof.
Yeah, that's a long time to delay that event.
Well, maybe they'll delay it. Maybe they
Especially if
delay
they're
it by this horde of.
no, the only way I could see them delaying it is if they skip forward in time and then they end it by doing a flashback to that moment. But that's going to create, I think that's going to create a lot more confusion.
It
If
would.
they do it based on the structure and story of the actual game, I have a feeling it'll be within the next 2 to 3 episodes.
Oh man, that's so quick. I mean, I get it, but man,
It's quick in the game, man. It happens so
it's
early.
true. It's true.
Because there's so much that has to happen after that, and such a long journey after that. Um, I don't know. I'm hesitant to say much more because I don't want to
Oh yeah, no, we don't want
spoil
to.
things. I'm just saying structurally, I don't think it's gonna. If it's that late, then like this is gonna be a 3 season arc
Oh yeah,
because that's way too early in the events to be a 2 season arc, in my opinion.
that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, looking forward to the rest of the season. We've got 6 more episodes.
Especially if we end this episode with Abby finding her way to Wyoming.
Right. No, she's finally there, and that's why I feel like maybe they're introducing this part with the cordyceps and the possible zombies moving because that could throw a wrench in all that. You know what I mean? So to save that for later on.
But I don't think that's going to be like a 3 episode arc. That's going to be sort of like maybe half an episode kind of thing. Or if it is a multi-episode arc, it's going to be sort of like devastation and then multiple episodes of them kind of dealing with the consequences of that devastation.
Right.
But there's got to be other stuff happening in between there as well. And I don't think they're going to put the story on hold just for that kind of thing. Like
Maybe.
the way they tell this story is there's so many different threads happening at the same time. If they put everything on hold just to kind of put this sort of filler in, I guess, for lack of a better term, I don't know. I think it's going to ruin the pacing if they wait.
Possibly.
The other thing that just occurred to me was there are flashbacks that happen in the game that could happen earlier, but I don't think they would have the same impact. And there's one in particular that I'm thinking of. I don't know if you're on the same page as me about this one, but it needs to happen after. If it happens before, it's not going to have the same impact.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I was talking about. Very true. Either way, I mean, I mean, the showrunners we trust, they did so good with the first season that I feel like they know what they're doing.
So good.
So, I mean, this is a great first episode, and it shows because apparently for this episode, for premiere, it drew 5.3 million viewers for the first episode, and that's above the 4.7 million for the first episode of season 1. So
and
obviously,
last I checked, the review for the Rotten Tomato score for the review so far, which granted are a few episodes because the reviewers are a bit ahead of us, was a 93.
Wow.
So it's a little bit less than the first season, but it's like not
Still
much
good.
of a drop off at all. And yeah, I was expecting a huge drop off, but and there were some negative things that people had to say, but it's like for the most part, people were like, this continues the same level of like well written drama and intrigue, and action and just fucking dread that, if you've watched the first season, you know what to expect in terms of like just how dark things are going to get. Um, yeah,
Man, if
I'm
you think
very
it's dark
intrigued.
now, just wait. Just wait till the rest of this stuff goes on, man. It's gonna get way worse.
I think knowing where things go, I think that they've done an excellent job in this first episode of setting things up, pulling
Reintroducing
us
us to the
into this new
characters.
paradigm of
Yep.
um, Joel and Ellie's life in what is sort of relative peace and comfort, which cannot last in this world.
No.
Um, Things are going to go bad, but having caught up with them, none of it felt like the same sort of arguments that I had for Daredevil, where it feels like, okay, they need to build stuff and develop stuff, but it's like, can we get to the point? Can we get to the point? Can we get to the point? I never felt that way watching this episode. It always felt like either character or plot was moving forward.
Yep.
Not so much that it was like it felt like they were rushing forward, but it's like we get a little bit here, we get a little bit there, and it feels like this is how you tell a story on TV, and it's like this is this is what I've been missing
Yep.
in terms of television shows, and I haven't seen anything this good since the end of the first season, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of great TV out there. I've watched quite a bit of it now. I feel like shows have gotten good, but this is up there. Like, I still love Daredevil. Reacher season 2 and 3 were amazing because I think they both came out. But I mean, season 2 came out about the same time as this one, and then season 3 just came out. And so, like, there's just a lot of good television right now. A lot of good stuff. Silos out there. There's a lot of stuff I'd love to review and talk about. But this one is definitely by far one of the best. At least I would even say it's one of the best television shows right now, but definitely the best video game adaptation we have seen.
It's not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close. Like that, I can't. The only thing I could think of that even comes close in terms of my enjoyment of it are the Sonic movies, and they are nowhere near this close in terms of quality.
Yep.
As much as I love them.
Yeah. Either way, I'm looking forward to this season. I can't wait to start watching, see where they go with the story and where they end for this season.
I can't say that I'm looking forward to the season because, again, knowing what comes, so much pain.
Oh yeah.
I'm dreading things, but I'm very intrigued to see how they adapt this because it's one of my favorite things is having fallen in love with a piece of fiction and then seeing adapted to film or television is sort of the study of like how that's kind of, and I'm sure I talked about this ad nauseum in the first season, but seeing how things are done, and in this case, how things are done so faithfully, but at the same time, how they change things and what they change, why they change it, which again led to my favorite episode of last season, completely different from the game. Beautiful episode, amazing episode.
Love the structure of it.
I'm very excited to see what they change this season, where things go from here. Oh, the music. I forgot to mention the music. Oh, the music, it makes me just every time I hear that guitar start to play up again, it's like I'm just sucked back into the first game, and it's like I'm so glad that they don't change that. The incidental music, the show creators very much have a love for early 90s grunge, and they keep throwing Pearl Jam in there, and I'm just, as a fan of Pearl Jam, I'm like, I love you guys. I love you so much.
Right. It's great.
And like they've got little bits of like in this episode they played a little bit of Nirvana, and they have like the Pearl Jam 10 album and the Nirvana in Utero album, and I just love. Sorry, I'm completely derailing
the stuff that Ellie was playing in her garage was, I mean, good callback to stuff that was like classic music, and then just of course the guitar scores with the scores, but also with
the theme of the show is just so beautiful but haunting and painful, and it's just like it's mostly just one guitar. Like there's a little bit of like backing music to it, but it's like it's mostly just a guitar riff, and it's like, oh, how can a one single guitar be so beautiful? And it's like it is. It's just
I love it. Can't wait to start reviewing this with you more, man. It's gonna be a great season. I'm looking forward to it. But all right, folks, that'll do us for today. Thank you so much for watching with us. What did you think of The Last of Us Episode 1 of Season 2? Leave your comments in the section below. Give us your positives, your negatives, your score out of 10, and what you're looking forward to most this season. Also, guys, if you like what you watch and you like what we provide here at Real Time, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell right there so you can receive all of our great content we have for you coming up here on Real Time. That's all we have for you today. Again, I am Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan
And thank you for keeping it real.
with Real Time. Good night.